Hello everyone, welcome to episode 17 of Empire of the Full Moon. I am your host, Mike Cadaver, and if you've seen it before, you know, on this show I talk about anything and everything having to do with the media superpower that has been built by Charles Band and has been going for almost 50 years. Okay, well, you know as well as I do that I may have exaggerated a little bit about the media superpower, but what it lacks in money and influence, it makes up for with the fans' love and support, and I'll tell you what, Charles Band, Empire International Pictures, and Full Moon Features, it has my whole heart. Today we're actually going to be talking about, shockingly, another kind of alien ripoff like we did last episode, where we talked about, creepazoids in episode 16. We're talking about Shadowzone today from 1990. You're right, another sci-fi horror stuck in one place, being hunted by a supernatural being or alien. It is Full Moon Features, just a staple of a steady diet of sleazy and amazing and wonderful low-budget films. Okay, so Shadowzone came out in the very beginning of Full Moon. In fact, it was the second film released after 1989's Puppet Master, the one that started it all, folks. And it was actually the second out of three that were actually released under the moniker Full Moon Productions. It was Puppet Master, it was this, and then it was Meridian Kiss of the Beast. After Meridian, though, Full Moon changed its from Full Moon Productions to Full Moon Entertainment, and Shadowzone was actually distributed by Castle Hill. It had a home media release on VHS by Paramount Home Entertainment, February 1990. If you know anything about, well, especially if you're a guy my age, you know that the early 90s was riddled and we loved it all with so many Paramount distributed Full Moon features, and a lot of it, this was the very beginning, right after, Empire International Pictures fell apart, and a lot of people argue that this is the golden age of Full Moon's output. And part of me totally agrees. I mean, when people think of Full Moon Features, like I said, especially guys my age, they'll think about renting all these from the Blockbuster, from the Mom and Pops, from the Hollywood Video back in the old days while we were in high school, junior high, yada, yada, yada. However, I have to admit, though, and yes, there's a lot of numerical proof that this was the golden age. But I'll tell you what, I love Full Moon throughout history, and that's why I do this show. But before we get on to talking about Shadowzone, I need to give you a little warning. It's totally normal to be watching a Full Moon film and see some female nudity. In fact, it might even be necessary, absolute necessary, and something that we definitely tune in for. But I've got to warn you, we're treated to both dongers and clams in this one. Dongers and clam. Okay, so that's like a new restaurant name. Hot dogs and clams, some seafood, stuff like that. But anyway, sorry about that. I should have seen that coming. Dongers and clam, though, just so you know. You have to squint a little bit to see it, but I know all you filthy animals are going to do it. And both with the dongers and the clam. But anyways, let's get right into this one. Here's the trailer.
Project Shadowzone, Captain Hickok.
In the dark of a lifeless sleep.
By taking subjects beyond normal levels of dream state sleep,
A research team
we discovered that a parallel dimension exists.
is exploring the world beyond dreams.
There's something I think you should see.
What is it?
I don't know.
Someone's trying to gain entry to the project.
It's a shadowy realm where science ends.
This is very dangerous.
It's coming out of the darkness.
Do something!
I can't. Something's overriding the program.
Where your darkest fears are given life.
It can assume the physical nature of human thought.
Become any size, any shape it wants.
It became what Kidwell was looking for.
Where the distance between sleep and death
There's no way out.
is just a nightmare away. Fletcher, James Hong, Sean Weatherly. Shadowzone.
All right, we got Shadowzone from 1990. IMDb right now has it at a 5.0 with around 1.6K ratings. And to be honest with you, that's pretty high for a lot of the movies we've been doing lately whose scores are basically right in the threes on IMDb. Now, there's no accounting for taste, but I mean, I love all those ones in the threes. This is 5. Is this that much better? We shall see. This was written and directed by a guy named J.S. Cardone, or Cardone. I don't know if I gave him an Italian background, but knowing Charles Band's Italian background, I wouldn't be surprised. Anyways, so I'm looking over his filmography, and he has 20 writing credits and 12 directing credits. But there is something that I do notice about it. If you remember, possibly like I said, if you're an older guy and you were going through the time in the mid 90s when Scream came out, and I Know What You Did Last Summer, and some of the slashers that came out after that were kind of glossy and nice. Not quite Twilight horror movies, but they had models as actors. Well, J.S. Cardone was involved in a few of these, and this is one of my least favorite horror movies of all time. He wrote and he directed, and that was The Forsaken from 2001. There's one scene in there, I'm gonna play it real quick, but there's one scene in there that is cringe to the point where I almost died in the theater when I went to see it.
It's just a beast under your bed, in your closet, in your head. Night! Robbed in Neverland.
He also wrote The Covenant from 2006, which is a bunch of pretty boys, and they do a bunch of witchy and wizardry things and whatever. He also did, by the way, the 2000s were the king of glossy remakes, right? If you remember The Stepfather from 2009, Cardone wrote this. Prom Night 2006, Cardone wrote this as well. And all of these, like I said, chock full of cringe moments, and just like I remember raging against the machine at these PG-13. I mean, why are the originals? I don't care anymore. In fact, I'm to the point where I don't even care if a film gets remade anymore, because it's like we always have the old ones, and chances are I've got the old Blu-ray of it anyway. He did some other stuff, though, that was pretty cool. Wrote Crash and Burn from 1990. So I'm not necessarily trying to be a jerk. I just hope that I got across the amount that I hated the movie Forsaken. Anyway, this movie stars Louise Fletcher as Dr. Earnhardt. You'll remember her. She played Nurse Ratched in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and she was in Exorcist 2. David Beecroft is Captain Hickok. He's a NASA captain who investigates this whole research facility that we'll talk about. James Hong, your man, my man, Lopan, as Dr. Van Fleet. Wow, I should go straight into radio after that. That was pretty cool. He played Dr. Van Fleet, the lead scientist in Project Shadowzone. We have Frederick Flynn is Tommy Shivers, kind of a poor man's Bubbles from Trailer Park Boys. So he's great too. He's one of my favorite characters in this one. Sean Weatherly is Dr. Kidwell. He kind of cares for she kind of cares for the old test animals and a medical examiner. Miguel Nunez Jr. as Wiley, the project's computer engineer. And if you're a horror guy, you love him. It is absolutely mandatory that you say enchiladas. Anyways, Lou Leonard is Miss Cutter, the facility's cook, and that's it. That's basically everyone who's in this movie, because like I said, it's a one location place, and it's kind of a full moon features staple on a lot of these movies. Anyway, okay, let's get into the plot, shall we? Okay, so Shadowzone follows NASA investigator Captain Hickok, who is sent to a secret underground research facility after a fatal accident occurs during an experiment. The facility is home to Project Shadowzone, a controversial and dangerous experiment that's going on. And basically what they do is they study deep sleep, different states in that, where apparently, which is good and bad, dollars and clams, where it's necessary to have butt naked or buck naked? Anyways, where it's basically you have to have butt naked or buck naked test subjects sleeping in pods with see-through covers, which is a blessing and a curse in the context of this movie, like I said. A blessing because of the girl, a curse because of the dude. Anyway, scientists there have been trying to explore consciousness by pushing the boundaries of the human mind during sleep. This is done by cutting off the communication from the brainstem to the brain. Through electronic signals, they get that done. There's nothing like cut it, there's no surgery or anything like that. But basically what that does is it makes the experimentee able to go into a deeper, darker level of sleep, and they can control that programmatically. They have a whole thing. They're hooked up to brainwave machines and all the sweet action technology that happens in movies from 30, 40 years ago. Anyways, like I said, Captain Hickok is there investigating a death, which he suspects is from an experiment gone wrong. The only way to find out, apparently, is to put a current subject in that same situation. So they do that. But, to be honest with you, the setup for this movie is actually it's pretty unique, actually. And it's great because it's like a whole experiment thing. So they're doing this whole sleep study. But what they find out, like on accident, is that putting a human being into this specific level of sleep, it's supposed to be transcendent in certain ways, but it ends up opening a dimensional portal where an alien entity jumps through the portal into our world, and apparently it's got bad intentions. But so basically that's the lead up to it. The rest of the movie was where the creature's attacking, killing the crew. Hickok and the remaining scientists must find a way to survive, stop the monstrous being before it escapes the facility. Basically, like I said, your alien-style setup, people stuck in one place can't escape. They need to fight for their lives. Will Dr. Hong find what he's been searching for? What has slipped through the dimensional portal, and in what form will it kill you? Do you know what it's like to squint really hard to see naughty bits while watching a movie? You will if you find out by watching Shadowzone from 1990. All right, so the first thing that I recognize watching the first half hour of this movie or so, the setup is great. Dongers and clams aside, I thought that the levels of sleep, the portal can open. That's a completely unique idea. It's something that maybe the Beyond had something similar where a certain frequency agitates the pineal gland and, allows the other person to see a dimension, but not putting them to sleep. And, obviously, this reminded me a little bit of From Beyond, but it doesn't go where From Beyond does, which is a shame, because to be honest with you, the concept for this is good, but it didn't have nearly the budget. Well, unfortunately, the last little while ends up being a bit of an Alien ripoff, which is fine. It's not to say it's not good, because I actually really enjoy this movie, but the thing is, it kind of becomes just that type of movie that a lot of movies end up kind of being the last act and whatnot. But anyways, I really enjoyed this movie. James Hong is awesome. He's super slimy as he tries to keep truths away from the NASA agent. He doesn't want anything to mess up his experiments. This may not be his best performance, but after being Lo Pan in Big Trouble in Little China, what else can be? He also has a sweet, memorable cameo, I guess, in Wayne's World, which I have not seen for years, but I do remember this scene is how good it is. But his obsession with these experiments, what he's willing to do to keep them untainted, it offers up some great moments, and obviously he's a great actor, and we all love him very much. In this movie, the characters were very likable. There honestly wasn't one character that I didn't like. Like I said, my favorites, like I said, there's Shivers, one of my favorites, but he's kind of like a low-budget Bubbles, and he kind of has the glasses and kind of the nerd. He's the only one that's not really an intellectual, and he's kind of a blue-collar guy, but he's got that blue-collar wisdom that helps out all the time. Hickok was great too, but Miguel Nunez, he didn't get a lot of chance to shine in this. Like the other movies that he's been in, Return of the Living Dead, although he wasn't the main character, there's just some stuff in there where he is just able to, I guess, be himself, and it's amazing, and I always love him. Not to mention the time where he called his girlfriend, he threatens his girlfriend, "I'm gonna get you, bitch," and I love that one very much.
Okay. I told you this isn't funny. Now you're gonna get it, bitch.
But so this one, he was in there. It's always good to see him. He didn't get a chance to flex that much, but still always love him. The special effects were great. I did learn that you should never allow a monkey in the autopsy room. There were some great head explosions, some other deaths, awesome stuff. There was some silliness. There's also weird because this is the second movie in a row where we had an ROUS. Basically, the creature that comes through manifests for the people's fears. Miss Cutter, the cook, has a fear of rats, and she hates rats. But that's just what this thing does. Richard Band scored it, and I always love the credibility that a Richard Band score gives to any movie that he scores. And the thing is I've said it 100 times on this show. These full moon features, although they're low budget, they're low scores typically, there's also something that kind of elevates it above its contemporaries in low budget filmmaking. Anyway, I was reading about it a little bit, trying to do some research and maybe bring something to this video that's not always out there. And I noticed, and this is not necessarily just about this movie, but it definitely is a little bit about this movie. I was reading, and there's a lot of people who are out there saying, listen, they compare it to things like, this one, fair enough, it's a sci-fi horror movie, right? But they compare it to things like The Thing in 1982, and it's not The Thing 1982. That had a budget of 15 to 20 million, where this had a budget under 1 million. So just take that with a grain of salt. You can look at Wikipedia, you can look at some other sites. So I don't know exactly, but let's just say The Thing, the budget looks like it's 20 times as expensive, whereas this one still is amazing. It's still in that same breath as a movie that has so much more money to it, and that's a low budget film. I mean, we're not sitting here saying John Carpenter's a giant Hollywood mogul who makes movies for the masses, and but I'm saying it's still a big difference. And so I don't know, man. Okay, so I don't like that at all, right? However, the Full Moon's fault maybe a little bit, because right on the poster, it compares itself to Alien and The Thing, and so it's like, bro, maybe you don't want to do that, because the story's great, the actors are great, I loved it, but the thing is it just does not compare. The special effects do not compare to Alien or The Thing. But I get wanting to get people out there and putting butts in seats. And so Charles Band has never been accused of not using every little advantage he can find and to market his movies. Anyway, long story short, this is a great one. It's a fun one. I don't hear a lot of people talking about this one. It's like I said, early full moon features, and a lot of those early full moon features are what a lot of people talk about. But this one, give it a watch. It's I'm not sure. Like, the problem is when I give you this and say you need to watch this, when I give you the recommendation, it's like, I know that I have kind of a soft spot for these kind of movies. So me giving a recommendation to like a normie would be like, oh, they're going to watch this and go, bro, that was weird, this blah, blah, blah. But to B movies, to cult movies, to low budget horror movies, this is an amazing one. I loved it very much. The cover is a little bit misleading, but I'll tell you what, check it out, watch it, and you will enjoy it. Anyways, so that's all I got. Tell your friends about this show. Subscribe to the channel if you would not mind. Tell your friends about corpsecollective.com. Sign up for all our social media accounts there. There's links there. Anyways, that's all I got for this show, so we'll catch you later.